Hi everyone, welcome back to Blurred Box. I'm Chloe.
I'm Haven.
I'm Pooja.
I'm Sophie.
And this is our podcast. Our episodes give you a bit of an inside look into what it's like being students at Stanford OHS, and we gather every week to host interesting discussions with interesting people. And we talk about world events and more. So continuing our streak of bringing on special guests, today we have another fellow student from OHS who's currently a senior, Ethan Wacker.
Hello, what's up everyone? I'm Ethan Wacker.
So go ahead and just
us,
introduce yourself a bit.
Sure. So my name's Ethan. I live in Honolulu, Hawaii, but for the past 4 years I've been going back and forth between Hawaii and Los Angeles to act. I'm an actor. So I was actually on a Disney show that ran for 63 episodes called Bizaardvark. And because of that time commitment, I am also a Stanford OHS student. So, that's all there is to know about me, I guess.
I guess before we go into anything else, could you tell us a bit about how that's like, having that lifestyle of going back and forth between Hawaii and LA for work?
Yeah, no, it's tricky. I mean, you definitely miss your friends back home and stuff like that. But if you want to do a job like I do, you got to make some sacrifices because it is a lot of people want to do that job. It's very competitive. So, but I mean, just to talk about the lifestyle, it's hard sometimes. I don't really see my family as much. I have 3 siblings and my parents live together and all of us 6 in one house. But when I go to LA, it's usually just me or my mom or me and my aunt or me and my dad or something like that for like 8 months at a time. Wow. But it's a lot of work too. I worked 52 hours a week when I was on set of Bizaardvark plus school. So that it was very full. So I was never bored. But I have no complaints. I think my family's handled it well. I've got to do a lot of amazing things. And I'm just happy that my childhood unfolded that way because I think it's a really interesting thing that I did.
Do your siblings ever want to do something similar? Sorry.
Each of my siblings has like their own different interest. I think my parents have done a really good job fostering that kind of identity in our family. Yes. My youngest sister is an extremely talented artist. She paints, makes clay sculptures, draws and stuff. She's actually a part-time student at OHS as well. She is a junior right now.
We might have to bring her on later.
maybe.
More
and then my older brother is really into sports broadcasting and boxing. So he does amateur boxing. He has an internship at ESPN and he's living out in Utah. And then my older sister is a psychology major at Quinnipiac University.
Right.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
You got to get your whole family on here.
Yeah.
Well, actually, was something I read before. Oh, sorry.
No, you
Sophie,
can go ahead. You can go ahead.
Sophie.
Sorry, I was just interested in like wondering what's the most rewarding thing of being an actor.
I'd say, it's obviously nice to see your efforts realized when you are on TV and all these people are like, hey, you did a great job. But I think the best part is definitely just walking around and getting to meet some of the people that I entertain. And they tell me about how I make their days better, how they laugh at the show when they're sad and stuff like that. And that's just the most rewarding part to me, the fact that I can reach so many people. And also it's allowed me to have a social media presence where I'm allowed to interact with so many people.
Yeah.
So I'd say, just giving me a platform has been the most rewarding part for sure.
The social media though, has that been mostly positive? I'm not famous enough to have made enemies, so I don't know if you get any hate or backlash online. I don't think you're problematic. I don't know. I haven't Googled your name yet, so
no. I'm very unproblematic.
You heard it here first.
I'm not too into the social media world. I do have a presence and I do talk about fitness and motivation and things that I care about like that, looking at obstacles as opportunities for growth rather than barriers that you can't get past. But that's what I use my platform for. I don't really, try to get into any controversial topics because I just feel that's a way to divide your base. And I focus a lot on school. You have to do that when you come to this school. So I spend a lot of time on that. I spend a lot of time with my friends and my family. So social media is something great, but I've never been so into it that it's become my whole identity, my whole life to a point where I butt heads with people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
You definitely have, just a slightly larger platform than most people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with your large, just slightly larger platform.
Right.
We want to talk a bit about, some of those misconceptions and like stereotypes that actually tend to be associated with having that type of platform, being a public figure, especially, actors. What are your first thoughts on that?
So, I don't know if this has been the experience of every actor, but a lot of times people think that because you do that, you're very like one track. I don't know how to articulate this properly, but they're like, oh, you're into that. And they think you're kind of vapid or something, or like not as invested in other things. You aren't multidimensional like a lot of other people are capable of being. And I think that is a flawed perception, because I know a lot of actors that are really invested in different causes, whether it's like environmentalism, advocacy, like that stuff. Or if you're just like me and you're about to go to college and you're really into, businesses and, really invested in academics. Everybody's different. And I think that they sort of group actors into sort of one perspective like that people have on them. But I think that's a little unfair, because I do think that, it's just like everything else, where each person's an individual with their own interests, their own passions, their own pursuits. And, I don't know if that explains it, but
that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I completely agree, because like I know you mentioned before, it's like being an actor and building up your social presence gives you this platform to pursue things you want to, like environmental advocacy or whatever you may want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit curious.
People just don't realize that.
Yeah, I agree. Like I've seen actually a lot of actors or anyone with kind of, like you said, like a social media presence or a platform like that. Think of like, I don't know, TikTok people or YouTube people, right? They try to take that platform sometimes to advocate for something they believe in, but a lot of the times they also don't. And I'm not saying, like, obviously they're still multidimensional and have other things that they're interested in, to your point, but I'm wondering if just on the point of like advocacy or, doing something with that angle, do you think that you have almost like more of an obligation to be a part of that,
like
or to advocate, right? Do you have like more of a responsibility?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Once you have that platform?
In my experience, I haven't really felt that pull. Obviously people do want people with presence to support their positions. So they're going to look for things that support their positions in your content. But I'm a pretty private guy. The only thing that I really share with my social media, like a thing that I advocate for, a thing that I really think is important, is the importance of fitness. That's something that I try to relay, and that's pretty uncontroversial. There's a lot of people who just on social media prefer to keep their lives a little bit more private than others, which is understandable, because, you're being watched by a ton of people all the time. People are looking at everything you do on social media. You don't want to share everything because you don't just want to be chastised, crucified, all that stuff if you have a different opinion from somebody else. So some people are just more private, and I don't think necessarily there's a responsibility to do these things, but I do think there's an opportunity that if you want to, you can make a bigger impact than a normal high school student would, just because you can reach many people, get your message out more, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think you're definitely right on that point. I actually think that, with whatever age you are, right, you're definitely going to be able to make an impact, but having the opportunity to do so more, you definitely take any advantage of that, and I like that. Yeah. Another thing I want to ask, actually, there's this phrase that fame gets into your head. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty cliche of a movie plot too.
Yeah.
Right. So going along with that, I'm curious to know, do you see that in real life? And what are your thoughts on that, having been in a circle that you can maybe see that?
You definitely see that a lot. But I'd say that it's really dependent on the people who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with yes men, or people that are just, supporting everything you're doing, not looking at your actions critically, not looking at your ideas critically, not, challenging you, you're going to fall into that trap, because you're just going to be getting a bunch of positive reinforcement. And you're going to think whatever you're doing is fantastic.
Right.
And, all these people love it. But I've been lucky enough to have parents, siblings, and friends that don't really care about that stuff. And they feel like, oh, you're the same person as you were when you were 15
if you have siblings,
and you didn't have followers. Yeah, exactly. So they're like, listen, buddy, I don't know who you think you are, but so I've had that presence in my life. So luckily I don't think that's happened to me, but I definitely see it happening. But there's also situations where people who do acquire followings get really insecure because of the social media situation. So not always does it go to their head. It can also have a really negative impact on some people because it is vicious out there. Nobody is excused from hate. Nobody is excused from hate. People will point out your imperfections. People will point out what they don't like about you, even if you like that about you, and you're going to start questioning things. But really, if you're going to maintain who you are, your identity, while interacting with so many different people who all want you to act a certain way, it's really about the people that you surround yourself with, the support group, that kind of stuff.
Correct me if I'm kind of asking this question before I get into the question, and correct me if it's based on an assumption that is wrong. But it seems like when you talk about, if you're in the public eye and people will like point out imperfections or something, it seems like you kind of accept that as just like part of the job, and you don't seem very impacted by it. So if that's true, I guess I'm wondering, was there like a turning point for you, or did you just never really invest that much in those people's opinions? Because I know I probably care.
So I was always when I was growing up, kindergarten, middle school, elementary school, I was always the smallest kid in the grade. I'm not the tallest dude, and that made me a target for some people. And I learned at a young age to have thick skin and not care what others say. The only opinions that impact me are the opinions of those that I care about and those that I love. So I've carried over that mentality. So when I see a hate comment, I'm like, okay, that's just more engagement for my page, because I honestly don't care about what, this guy is saying on my page, because I don't like, he's not important to me. I don't value that. I don't know him, so I don't know if his perspective is valid. That's the thing about me. I have to know somebody and care about them and think that they're a good person in order for their opinion to really hold weight with me.
How old were you when you started acting? And like, how do you think that shaped you today, especially since you started probably at a younger age than most people?
So I think that just because of my support system, I haven't had the same experience as a lot of young actors where, they get really down on themselves or super self-critical. For me, I started acting when I was like 10, 11 years old. And I went out to LA for 2 years and I heard a lot of no's. There's a ton of rejection in the acting industry, and you got to learn how to handle that. So it took about 4 years before I booked Bizarrevark. I booked many jobs before that. Like I appeared on Jimmy Kimmel. I guest starred in Casey Undercover and Hawaii Five-0, stuff like that. But nothing big until the Disney show that I was on. So there was a lot of rejection. I did hundreds of auditions and probably booked 10 jobs. And that's I'd say something that's carried over. I think I'm capable of handling rejection, taking criticism and moving on, and also being sure in myself. I think, that self-assurance, confidence, not egocentric confidence, but like just, confidence in my abilities. I think that's something that I've had to build in order to put up with that, constant stream of rejection. And I think that's something that I've carried now over to not only academics, but, if I'm trying to do business or, even interacting with people on a social level, that kind of rejection, I'm able to handle it, I think.
So, yeah.
Was there like a significant learning curve for you when you hopped on to OHS to like, as far as not just the school workload itself, but between balancing all of that?
Yeah, I'm a part-time student because when I was acting on the show, I filmed 52 hours a week. I worked 52 hours a week. So there were a lot of times where I wouldn't be able to make the class, and I couldn't, at OHS, they like you to make the classes or else you're going to fail the classes. Yeah. So I was only able to take a couple, and I had to set those times with production. Like I'm sitting down, I'm doing this class, and I'm also in a different online program. But I'd say I was in a pretty solid college prep school since kindergarten. They've been trying. I've always tried to expose myself to the most rigorous education, and that's something that's carried over. And I don't think the learning curve was too bad. I think I just had to understand that, it's going to take some work to succeed here. And once I understood that, and once I was able to accept that and not take shortcuts, that's when I started to thrive here.
Are there any places that they kind of intersect, like that you've been able to apply any of the stuff that you've learned, like through classes into your acting?
Yeah, I mean, I think Stanford OHS is a great motivator and a great way to, craft your work ethic, because a lot of it's independent study. You're trusted a lot at a young age to do all the readings, do all the homework, write your essays within a reasonable amount of time before the assignment date so that you're not cramming it before, all that stuff. So I think, like that happens.
Right, like that happens.
But I think, the work ethic that you have to have in order to sort of self-regulate and succeed in this program, has also, carried over to acting, because I don't like to not finish a scene until I think I've done it well. And I like to memorize my lines before I go in, so I do a good job. And I just want to be prepared. And that's something that Stanford OHS, I think, has really instilled on me.
Yeah, really nice. One thing that you mentioned, actually, with all the previous jobs that you've booked and Disney being the biggest one, what's the biggest difference that you felt between those jobs and the ones that you booked on Disney?
Let's see. I think on Disney, on Bizaardvark, I was given a lot more responsibility, because I had to come in every day, 8 months or 21 weeks, I had to come in every day and I had to perform, because there's hundreds of other people that are depending on you to do a good job to pay their bills and feed their kids and everything. And if you don't do a good job, you're letting everyone down. So
right.
I had to mature a lot, I think, because you can either mature or you can crack under the pressure. And for me, cracking under the pressure wasn't an option. So I just decided, you know what, you're young, but you just have to take that step. You have to be able to accept this responsibility, and you have to be able to perform. So that was a difference, because when you're guest starring, you're there for a week, and, you can tolerate some, antics, or you can tolerate a little bit of lackadaisical preparation, but you can't tolerate that when you're there every day, every week for the entire season.
You mentioned, when you talk about your support system, your friends and your family and stuff, I was just really curious about if you also had a support system on set, or with coworkers or anything like that,
yeah.
Or if you just
For the first season, I think you all know who Jake Paul is. For the first season, this was before he sort of exploded into internet fame.
No idea who he is.
He was actually
Okay.
really, but he was actually really kind to me, and he was really nice to me, and he tried to show me the ropes of LA, because I'd lived in Hawaii and I didn't have this presence, and he was trying to prepare me for what I'd see, and he tried to get me out there, and he hung out with me on set. He was 19 and I was 13 or 14, and he still hung out with me. And he was really cool to me. So he was sort of my friend on set for the first season. Yeah. And then as the second and third season, I grew a lot closer to Olivia Rodrigo. And she became my best friend on set, my rock there. And then the show ended and I moved back to Hawaii to do school and everything like that. But I definitely say family, friends, and the cast all together, made it manageable.
Yeah. Now that actually you mentioned Jake Paul, he is actually he has this, I would say, YouTube persona and all of this stuff that surrounds him that kind of comes off with going back to the preconceived notions of a public figure.
Right.
What are those? Can you talk a bit on, do you think there was a very big difference between what he puts out, or what kind of things that people perceive of him compared to knowing him, being his friend?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a solid guy. And I think that he does care about people and stuff like that. So I think he's a solid guy. But on the internet, you have to act a certain way if you're going to maintain people's interest for years, get them to buy your clothes, get them to subscribe to all your different channels, get them to see your business and follow everybody that's around you. You have to be this enigmatic draw. And he sort of really, really invested himself in being that enigmatic draw. And he did make some missteps, and I think that sort of tainted the view of him. But, once you do that, once you have that tainted view of you, your options are very limited. You can either go back, and I guarantee you, if he tried to change his personality online back to, a more normal person, not that he's not normal, but a more, regular, doing regular things, his viewership would decline. So he really had to embrace that in order to keep his platform.
Yeah.
So I think that's why you've seen that. But in person, he was definitely a solid guy in my experience.
YouTube personalities are really interesting, because I always considered them just normal people with a lot of charisma, or who just have millions of dollars to do things, right? And then I realized that they're actors too, to an extent, or the well-known ones, right?
I'd honestly say that all social media is acting.
I would agree with that, because
it's true.
Because everybody's just presenting the best parts of their life. Nobody's posting, unless you're on somebody's private Instagram or private Snapchat story, nobody's posting them crying. Nobody's posting their depressive fits or anything. Nobody's posting the hard times. Yeah, even that can be acting. If it's an attractive drama situation, they can, dramatize the issue, I guess. But I'd say a lot of people just present what they want other people to see and don't give a completely honest view of themselves. And that's something I don't like about social media. And that's why I haven't invested my whole personality in it, because I know that if I did, the good would come with the bad, because I'm obviously not a perfect person. Nobody's a perfect person, but I'm just not capable of that type of like maintaining that for so long. But that people definitely do that. Social media is not the most honest place. And that's why I think that the younger generation can't look at social media as the ideal for what they should grow into. That's not what you should do. You should be your own individual, pursue your interests. And I get that you can look up to these people if they have similar values to you, or if you think they're really funny or something like that. But trying to create that for yourself isn't going to work, because they're not showing you everything that goes into it, all the hard work, all the flaws, all the tough times, all that stuff. They're just showing you the success.
I see a lot of people now too who even like live their normal lives looking for that snapshot of success, you know, and it's frustrating. I have friends who I love with my whole heart, you know, but if we go out hiking, I want to hike to see something pretty, not to like go on a hill and like take a picture of you in leggings, you know, like I think that's not really what's significant there.
I think social media is definitely a motivating factor for that, because everybody wants the gratification that comes with getting attention, you know. But I don't think on a smaller scale, I don't think it's necessarily as problematic if people want to look pretty or people want to look handsome on their Instagrams or something like that.
Right.
I don't think that's bad. But if people are living their lives, yeah, exactly. But if people are living their lives with the aim of presenting a picture on social media that isn't authentic, that's when it becomes problematic to me.
I'm so glad you started talking about that. It really resonates with me.
Going back then to the question like that I had about advocacy, like if you have a bigger platform, do you have more of a responsibility to advocate? I guess now in this context, if you have a bigger platform, do you think you have, especially coming from, you know, you said you're a private person too, do you think that you have any responsibility to be more open or honest with your followers, even if it means being that way to a ton more people?
I think that the responsibility that does come with having followers and that does come with having an audience is treating them like people and not numbers. I think that's the responsibility that comes with it. I don't think that there's necessarily a responsibility to share anything that you don't want to share, especially because of how volatile and sometimes toxic the social media can be. Like it can take its toll on people if you're open and about your passions, your interests, your opinions, and everybody's hating on you, calling you either like a terrible person if they don't agree with you, or saying you're dumb, or like saying what you're interested in is stupid, or saying that like, you know, oh, you're just uninformed, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. That can take its toll on people. So I don't know if that's necessarily a responsibility. You don't have to be an open sharer, but you have to treat them as people and not numbers, and you have to understand that you have to respect them. Like you can't just shovel, you know, a lot of people get approached with promotional opportunities,
like the
of like products that aren't made ethically. Products that aren't made ethically, or products that they don't know about, but they'll shove it down their followers' throats because, you know, they can make money off of it and they're trying to capitalize off the situation that they're in. I think that you have a responsibility. I'm not saying the Kardashians do that, by the way, just to remain, you know, impartial. Just to remain impartial. But I think you have a responsibility to look at them as individuals and treat them with respect, and make sure that what you're promoting to them is ethically sourced, is, you know, a product that people put time into, stuff like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like what was in mind when I was asking that was, do you guys know Jamila Jamil? That actress? She's she's on
I've heard of her.
I do not.
Funny. Her social media presence is very much focused on, I think she struggled with like eating disorders in the past. And so she's very much focused on like the body positivity movement and everything, right? And so her big like platform that she stands on is like, you know, anyone, like a celebrity or someone with a platform has this like inherent obligation to their followers to be 100% real and 100% honest at all times. But I see what you mean. Like my problem with that then when I think about that is, well, you know, anyone else, you know, I, with my, I don't know, 900 followers or whatever, I don't think I have an obligation to be 100% real and honest with them all the time.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah. And, you know, I think there's people who, when you believe really strongly in something, you believe that other people should believe really strongly in that same thing. Like for me, I think fitness is extremely important. I think that people should be invested in getting out, you know, being active. I think that it makes people happier and healthier and feel better. But I don't think that everyone out there is required to promote fitness. You know what I mean? Because I know that other people might have different views on it, different views of how they want to live. It's their own life. It's their own lifestyle. So to address that, what you just brought up, you know, the body positivity movement, it's great to make people feel, you know, confident about themselves, comfortable in their own skin. But some people might have different views on how to approach, you know, the obesity epidemic or eating disorders. People might have different views on how to approach that from her. So I don't necessarily think it's fair of her to say that everybody should be 100% real honest about what they actually do. Like, I think promoting what you want to promote with having your followers in mind, respecting them, I think that's perfectly valid for every influencer or everybody with a platform to do. And I don't necessarily think it follows like a strict sorry, I'm blanking on the word. I'm not articulating this well, but a strict like outline of what you have to tell people. I think that's fair.
That whole discussion we've had on the preconceived notions and everything, and having gone into that, I think you've detailed that very well. With that said, we're going to have a surprise guest come on, and who's actually your friend, actually knowing you outside of those preconceived notions. He's another senior at Stanford OHS who's going to help us with this last segment. So for the big reveal, please introduce yourself, surprise guest.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Allen. I'm a senior at Stanford Online High School. I'm going to be majoring in engineering next year, specifically biomedical engineering. I'm not sure how far you guys want me to go into this, but basically in my free time, I like to, design different biomedical tools. Like last night at 4 a.m., I made a little N95 mask adjuster for the nurses who are working their butts off at the hospitals. I'm working on like respirators and oxygen concentrators for various people in my neighborhood because our like average age is like 65. And I consider myself one of Ethan's friends. I'm one of the only ones with a Snapchat, so
Yeah, you got the inside information for sure.
Yeah.
Very nice. So with Lawrence here, we're going to do a little segment we call the word box segment before we end the episode. Obviously, our main topic has been a lot on these notions of knowing public figures and having the inside outside. One of the things we'll be doing is that we're going to think about the inside box, and we're going to think of that as Lawrence giving us some words as to how he would describe Ethan before knowing him. So his preconceived notions to describe you, Ethan, with words that he would choose. And then we'll have you guess which words that you think he's going to say. And we're going to compare that.
Sounds good. So you want me to go first?
Try guessing some first and see if with Lawrence has...
Yeah, I have them written down.
All right, bet. All right, let's see. Some of the things that I think people have preconceived about me, maybe quiet, I don't know, like quiet or I keep to myself.
Never once thought of an actor as quiet.
Maybe I mean, a lot of people maybe think I'm a little bit like egocentric. Maybe is that something? I don't know.
Yeah, I've thought of actors as egocentric.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'll try one more. I mean, I'll just say it. I'll just say maybe Lawrence thought I was smart. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. So the big reveal, the ones I've written down. Number one would be extremely attractive. Number two would be famous. Number three would be short king. Number four would be womanizer. And number five would be good with kids, which is interesting because it means like he's like husband material, I think just like to put it in context, it was actually kind of a long con becoming Ethan's friend. Zaraver and I kind of spotted him from afar at one of these Stanford events, and we walked past him 3 times trying to get him to talk to us. And we're just pretending that we kept, having to get more food or something.
It's like a rom-com.
Really we're trying to become friends with Ethan. And I think I was the only one that really made it out. So, I'm grateful every day.
Lawrence really advocating for me out there.
How long have you guys been dating?
Yeah, same question I had.
No, definitely not. Let's just clear the air there. But he's just a very supportive friend. That's what I'd say. Just a very supportive friend. I mean, I've never met, I've like met him like 3 times, but in an online school context.
All right. So I guess for the other side of it, after getting to know him, so Ethan, guess of some words that he's written down now after getting to know you.
All right. If I had to describe myself, I'd say I'm thoughtful. I guess like I think through everything before I say it. I like fitness, so active, athletic maybe. I work ethic. I'm a hard worker. And then last, maybe he still thinks I'm a handsome guy. Who knows?
So how'd he do?
Yeah, well, honestly, I didn't change my list all that much. I think one of the ones is twin, because Ethan apparently is brittle boned as well. I've broken 11 bones, and Ethan just shattered his leg, and it was kind of iconic because Ethan shattered his leg snowboarding, and then I broke my foot snowboarding like day after, and I just thought like there's a connection here,
Yeah.
or maybe I'm like self-sabotaging to like get closer to Ethan because like the long con, but yeah, I feel like Ethan definitely is thoughtful. I definitely feel the support whenever Ethan slides up on my story, and I think definitely most of his other friends, like maybe his Hawaii friends that he actually hangs out with, might say the same thing. He's like launched a lot of their careers with like the different waterfall pics of them jumping off, and like Ethan's abs are kind of iconic, and I feel like there's the face that launched 1,000 ships, the Ethan's abs that launched 1,000 DMs. I just I feel like there's a lot of good energy that comes out of him, and I think that is one that I'd add. I didn't think he would be this much of like a humanitarian.
The 1,000 DMs were just all from Lawrence.
I know. Seriously.
Yeah.
I see like Ethan blushing in the corner of his like camera.
Ethan, why didn't you think to describe yourself as brittle?
Well, because the accidents that I've been in where I broke my bones were like really severe. So I don't think I'm brittle. I just put myself in situations like this ski accident. I was going like 50 to 60 miles per hour and got and just crashed and shattered my leg. I broke my other leg. Yeah, and then I broke my arms while biking accidents, and I broke my collarbone trying to do a backflip and just planted on my chest. So it's not like I'm breaking it just walking around or falling over. I'm just doing dumb things and breaking my bones.
I similarly have broken my hand in bike accidents. I also broke 3 bones jumping off a 3-story building to impress friends because I thought that showing off my parkour skills would be cool. So I feel like maybe Ethan and I both have the decision-making complex as well, where we are just these expert decision makers.
Very nice. Anyway, I think that's the most interesting box segment we've had so far.
Yeah,
on
that
this
was interesting.
podcast. But yeah, very nice having you on, Lawrence, and thank you for coming on, Ethan, today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Meeting you both.
Yeah, really nice talking to both of you. Thank you guys for listening to Blurred Box with Chloe, Haven, Pooja, and Sophie. If you like our show and want to know more, check us out on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or please leave us a review on iTunes. Be sure to join us next week when we talk about the digital divide between the students right now in the pandemic with the coronavirus with Dr. Hoshi. Be sure to stay tuned for that, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys for listening.
And don't forget to
Thank
smash
you.
that like button.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
See you guys soon.